We know what you're thinking, but there is a big difference between a challenging video game and a cruel video game. Despite its reputation for being horrifying in its difficulty, the Souls games are actually very fair, for the most part. The challenges therein are meant to be overcome, and the player is given the tools and training to get good, or at least as good as one can get for Dark Souls. So no, the Souls series is not cruel, it's tough love. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and click on the links in the description to vote on upcoming content. Our pick for the most cruel video game goes to the 1990 NES game Dragon's Lair. This game basically hates you, the player, and does everything it can to make you give up, stop playing, and never pick up a video game ever again. While the original Laserdisc version of Dragon's Lair hit arcades in 1983, it drew in players in droves. Despite its reputation as being difficult and a notorious coin muncher, I mean at 50 cents a pop it could really guzzle quarters. By 1984, it had grossed $32 million against its $1 million budget. However, despite the initial rage, disillusionment began to set in owing to its difficulty, preset gameplay, and expense. In the end, it kind of fell out of favor with arcade goers. However, the thrill it had initially provided was enough to sow the seeds of early nostalgia and all the thoughts of what else the Dragon's Lair franchise could offer to gamers. A number of floppy disk and computer-based versions were released, but none had quite the same flair. Then, in 1990, it seemed like those long-cherished dreams would be realized with a home edition of the classic when a reimagined version of Dragon's Lair dropped for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Overall, like on paper, the NES version promised a game which, plot-wise was the same as the arcade classic, maintaining the beautiful animation. And we will give the game one thing, and one thing only. The graphics are pretty damn good for 1990, and it's probably the best looking game in the NES library. So, after loading their cartridges, early gamers everywhere excitedly walked Dirk the Daring up to the drawbridge of the castle in which Princess Daphne was being held hostage, and basically never got any further. Right away, it's clear that the game doesn't want you to get in there. The gameplay mechanics are stiff as hell, and the player's movement is maddeningly slow. This might have been overlooked if not for the fact that nearly everything, except for the bats for whatever reason, are one-hit kills. The water, that dragon, its fire, even the frickin' door. To compound elements, it soon becomes evident that this is going to be a game of memorization and timing, not skill. Just to cross the damn drawbridge, players must time things perfectly with the dragon, who rises and falls with your motions, making it nearly impossible to hit. Anyway, once inside the castle, things only get worse. Enemies pop in out of nowhere and the one-hit kills continue, making your life bar seem like a pointless joke. You proceed at an agonizing pace, all while trying to commit to memory the timing of the enemies and their attacks. To be killed in Dragon's Lair is not an if, or even a when, because pretty much every single obstacle in the game is gonna kill you on the first try. Floors fall away, simple jumps are basically impossible, and as mentioned earlier, enemies pop out of nowhere, and the stiff controls ruin any chance to reflexively save yourself. Adding insult to injury, you only have 5 lives and no continues before it's game over, and you're forced to start back at the very beginning of the game, loser. All that alone would be bad enough, but in Dragon's Lair on the NES, death is only the beginning, my friend. For most players, dying unfairly over and over again is enough to make them give up. But for this game, killing you just isn't enough. You see, this game is actually non-linear, and vital secrets are easily missed. Like, right here for example, there is an important upgrade to Dirk's weapon that he's gonna need to kill the boss. It's invisible though, and in order to get to it, you need to stand on the right spot and press start to make it appear. If you didn't know that, and why would you? Too freaking bad, sucker! Next, you get to the elevator room. The lift stops on multiple floors, but guess what? If you pick the wrong one, the game sends you back, either to the beginning of the previous stage or, all the way back to the beginning of the game. There's no hints, no second chance. Choosing the wrong floor is basically an instant game over. Hashtag deal with it. Continuing on your adventure, if you did, we encountered this boss, and really can't figure out how to beat it. Players had blisters on their thumbs trying, but eventually those moved up the mine shaft leading to the final boss. At first, it might be hard to decide if being only 20 minutes long was a blessing or just another insult. But then you realize that with only 5 lives, no continues, and the game basically hitting the reset button for you, basically no one will get this far. So it really doesn't matter how long or short the game actually is, it's kind of irrelevant. Dragon's Lair for the NES is living hell, a corporeal nightmare. Every gameplay mechanic will make you mad, frustrated, and encourage you to have as little fun as possible. Most people like a challenge in their video game, and maybe just trying to see how far you can get in the impossible dungeons is one way to try and enjoy it. But with mechanics so clunky and gameplay so exasperating, this quickly loses its charm. Even the most die-hard gamers will probably lose their minds on the first screen. There's a reason why Dragon's Lair is considered by many to be one of the worst games of all time. So, sorry Princess Daphne, make yourself comfortable, because this game is the most cruel of all time.
Please save me! The cage is locked with a key. The dragon keeps it around his neck.
Thanks for watching MojoPlays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.